Hello, welcome back to the Global Lives. Today we will talk about a much talked topic, which is the end of the Portuguese Golden Visa, and we will also clarify all questions you might be asking yourselves or googling around the internet to find out what is the state of affairs, what's happening to the Portuguese Golden Visa, and if there's still time to apply. We will also clarify the routes, alternative migration and investment routes for anyone interested in Portugal. And to talk about these topics, we have two specialists. So I can hear myself, so I don't know if there's a problem there with you as well. I hope not. So we have two specialists from Global Citizen Solutions. The Managing Director, Patricia Casaburi, is with us, and also our Head of Legal, Joana Mendonça. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
And good to have you here. So before we start, as always, I will give you a bit of a breakdown of how we will run this live. Just some basic logistic topics here, but it's important to start from the beginning. So as always, we will start with a few questions about the ending of the Portuguese Golden Visa, and so you will hopefully have all clarified on what is expected, what timings and so on. And then from there, I will open the second phase of our live, which is the Q&A. So that will give you an extra chance to clarify any further questions you may have. And you might be watching us from YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook. So we are live on these three channels. And if you are pressed for time, you're not able to stay all the way to the end of the start of our Q&A. You can start jotting down your questions there in the chat box, and our team will be able to answer. And we will answer your questions later. This will be recorded, and you will be able to access the answer of your question later on once we publish it on our YouTube channel. Let me see if there's something else I've forgotten. No. Just more, one thing that I'm going to ask you, if you have a chance, if it's not too much to ask, please give us a like, because it will help the video go viral and obviously be a source of information to other people that are looking for an update on the Portuguese Golden Visa. Okay, ladies, shall we start? It's been minutes here, so I think we can start now. So the Portuguese Golden Visa, it was launched in 2012. It has been a very popular choice for non-EU citizens looking for a residency option in Portugal. It works in a very simple way. So in exchange for an investment in real estate or investment funds, you get your residency in Portugal. And why it's been such a popular citizenship by investment program. So I'm a bit slow today, but I promise it's just the beginning. We'll get a bit more. I'll shift to the third gear. So Portugal, the Portugal Golden Visa has an array of perks. And it's considered one of the a very important investment migration program of its kind. Attractive tax benefits, being able to live in a stunning country in Europe, and a pathway to an European citizenship. However, on 16th of February, it was announced the end of the program. And now I will ask Joana to give us a detailed breakdown on what has happened since the 16th of Feb and how the legislative process has been unfolding. Joana?
Okay. So it's true, since February 16th, this issue about the termination of the Golden Visa became real. The government announced they would terminate, amongst other measures targeting housing protection, they announced the termination in full of the Golden Visa. It was only 2 weeks later that it became more serious, when the government tried to say they would backdate the effects of the termination. This is not allowed, so in the end, they ended up overturning completely the backdating of effects. But in the meanwhile, there was a kind of a crisis with this idea of backdating the effects. Right now, with a final draft, the government submitted the final draft to the parliament, because this is the type of subject that has to be decided by the parliament and not by the government alone. The final draft of the government, sent in April, overturned completely the backdating of effects, and specifically says that anyone submitting the Golden Visa before a new law comes into force, a new law terminating the Golden Visa, anyone applying until then is safeguarded by the law that it's now in force. Because when you apply under a certain framework, and you trust that certain framework, and that framework will be honored. So anyone applying now, even if the procedure takes a long time to be assessed, the procedure will be assessed according to the laws in force right now. So the average of 7 days per year to maintain the Golden Visa will maintain for anyone, and for renewals, family members are safeguarded too. So the new proposal ended up saying what we expected in a termination of the Golden Visa. That is, that the Golden Visa is terminated for the future, for future applications only.
Okay.
Anyone that manages to apply until then will
Mm-hmm.
have the same Golden Visa as anyone who applied before.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And that must have been a massive relief for clients and anyone interested. And also, Paul Jory, who jotted down his question, here's your answer. So yeah, it's still you can still apply for the Golden Visa. Joanna, I will. So you talked about, since the announcement, and there was a period in which the government heard the civil society, and it was a period where experts and stakeholders contributed with data and views on the initial proposal and its impact. And I know Global Citizen Solution has been very present from the beginning, and you've created a task force, um, kind of summoning the experts from the industry in Portugal from different segments of property sphere, as well as in investment migration. Um, Patricia, can you tell us about the task force and what was discussed and what was proposed to the government? Do you think this period of where the government listened to the stakeholders, it impacted positively in the final proposal?
Yes, certainly. It's been a journey, to say the least, from the beginning of the year. We've been highly involved, like you just mentioned, and kind of clarifying for the public the impacts of the golden visa. What are the numbers, what it is a golden visa. There's a lot of confusion, and some think it's to do with taxes, some are not quite sure, and so there's a lot of a misunderstanding. So we took a role of making sure that the media channels and the conversation is kind of stirred into the right direction. The idea here, the task force has produced a document, a dossier, if you will, with several ideas. One explaining a little bit what the legislation currently allows, because there's a lot of misconception as well about one of the kind of main points of the housing bill proposed by the government, where the kind of draft to end the Golden Visa has been added to, is to do with the kind of housing crisis and price property speculation, especially in Lisbon and Porto, for instance, and in the Algarve. But which is a little bit ironic is that since January 2022, investment in residential properties in these places are no longer allowed. So there's a lot of misinformation out there. We wanted to make the public large to understand, and also understand the number of applications that we get every year for Golden Visa applicants versus the number of real estate transactions, and how minimal the impact actually is. But we went a little bit further. We actually came out with ideas and in-depth studies about the positive impact of some of the developments and tourism developments that are happening all over the country, not the big cities, which definitely creates a lot of jobs, both direct and indirectly, and also for a long periods of time, because a lot of them are hotels or service apartments, or there's even farms and schooling student residents. So they're long-winded projects that will have a very positive impact on a lot of the destinations. We also suggested a few solutions to kind of redesign or revamp the program, and we had a chance to kind of make this document get to kind of key heads of parliamentary groups in Portugal. And I think it did actually, impact or was used in some of the discussions with different party leaders, which is obviously very positive. So again, whatever side of the argument, obviously we're a little bit biased here. We want the success of the program because we see that every day the direct, positive impacts to the economy. But equally, there's always room to improvement. There's always room to making the debt-free capital that comes from this type of investment to be placed in projects where the country actually needs. So, and this is a little bit of the idea of the task force, maybe redirect as an answer to the actual problems that the country might face. You're on mute, She.
Sorry. Yeah, I have no words to say. No, not really. The task force was a very important moment where Global Citizen Solutions showed its stance and put together some important experts for the industry and shared a lot of important data and information with stakeholders as well as the decision makers in the government. So well done for that. Now, I'd like to ask Joanna a bit about this final proposal. So I know you already mentioned a few of the topics, but I'd like you to repeat yourself, even if you have to, because we have lots of questions here, and I'm sure some of them joined us just now. So what do we know so far about this proposal, and how does it affect people that have already started their Golden Visa application?
So basically, anyone who applies in due time, so before a new law comes into force, will have a Golden Visa as we know it. Okay. Even if they reframe the Golden Visa and call it by a different name, because there's this issue about possible reframing into a D2 visa. In any way, they said specifically, there's a legal provision saying specifically that the 7 days are average 7 days per year are guaranteed. So even if it's under a different name, applicants will be able to renew with the average of 7 days per year as long as they maintain the investment. I know I saw there's in the chat, there's a question already about details about family reunification, and I can clarify that already. The family reunification visa, it's a visa on its own. It's not connected to the Golden Visa. So it will exist and it will be maintained for as long as we have visas. You can do family reunification with the Golden Visa, with a D2 visa, D7. So what this means is even if the Golden Visa goes away, anyone with a valid visa in Portugal, valid residence permit, because in the end, that's what it is. The card is a residence permit, it's not a visa. Anyone that holds one of those will be able to bring family members along under the family reunification visa. So if you have children, if you plan to have children in 3 years, they will be eligible for family reunification. If you get married in 5 years, they will be eligible for family reunification. So that's not an issue, not now or ever.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. That was a very good answer. Now, I think I'll ask Patricia. What's the state of play at the moment, Patricia? How the industry has adapted at every stage of the Golden Visa ending announcement?
I think for one, there was a sense of, we're on it together. There was a kind of a refocus from the client side as well. And like I mentioned, we've been a bit of on a journey. I think Joanna and you kind of highlighted a little bit, different announcements had different messages. And now we're, I think, the final or semi-final, because there might still be some positive changes still added to it. There's always hoping. But we're in a place that it means, like Joanna say, you can still apply, can go, go for it. We have security people that have been on the program, and they'll be undergoing renewals, and through the process, they have not been affected. But what happened through this journey was that as an industry, we've adapted, we've worked together and came up with really good solutions. So developers or sellers and even investment fund managers were looking for solutions to enable clients in case we, for example, run out of time because the law came into effect faster than we thought, or with retroactive effects, or someone, there was an easy exit for clients, so they wouldn't be jeopardized by this situation or the uncertainty. So clients are putting their faith, in the system, and so providers, lawyers, developers, everyone is also working together to kind of enable a safe environment for investment, which is obviously at this time is the main thing. A safe due process of application without compromising on the due diligence and all the kind of checks and balances that need to be made. So yeah, it's been quite rewarding in a way to what clients have also been best behavior, very focused, working very thoroughly to get their documents in a timely fashion. Our team, and I can say, I think also from some of our competitors, everyone is very zoomed into what it needs to be done. So onboarding processes are being done quickly, first calls, going through each client's kind of questions and specific situations, the complexities of applications. Anyways, it's been all very positive, and I think we're in good shape. Thankfully now, the kind of some of the exit clauses in contracts and they serve no purpose, but it was actually very good to see that we all kind of rallied around and to make things work.
Definitely. I think it was a very interesting lesson of how the industry works together, of how the community got together, and how some lengthy processes had been sped up with the collaboration of each other, and obviously very reassuring for clients as well. So let's move on because we've got lots of questions here, but I still have my own questions I want to ask you. Joanna, so the proposal that was revealed on the 14th of April, I believe, indicates us that the future law that will come into force on the day of its publication will have no grace period, foreseen for the revocation of the Golden Visa in Portugal. I know this is a subject that's been debated and changed. So what do you have to say on the grace period, Joanna?
So technically, there's no an obvious legal barrier for preventing the parliament to enact the law immediately after it is published. But to be fair, that's not how things are usually done here in Portugal. And if you look from the constitutional point of view, it doesn't make sense to enact a termination of the Golden Visa one day after it is published. There are investment cycles undergoing, and legitimate expectations are built around those investments, and those have to be honored. So it doesn't make sense not to give a grace period, because everyone needs to adjust. There's several agents in the industry. So it's not only the investors, also the developers, and anyone who tried to create products for Golden Visa investors. Those agents, they have expectations too. So it doesn't make sense to terminate the Golden Visa suddenly. It makes sense to give at least a few months. The last time we had amendments, and the last amendments were just changing of what can you buy where, just a difference between residential and commercial. And in the end, we had a year and a half because it was postponed, the entering into force of the new law. So it doesn't make sense for me as a professional working with visas and with Golden Visa since 2012. It doesn't make sense not to have a grace period. So even though it's not foreseen in the proposal, because it's not, and even though it's possible, but you can question if it's technically possible in light of the Constitution, but okay, assuming it was possible, it doesn't make sense. So I think this is something that the Parliament and the debates will probably overturn, and I believe we'll have a grace period, even if it's only until the end of the year. I think we need a grace period, and it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. And history tells us from what has been done in the past, all the changes, there was always a grace period. Okay, so let's hope for the best. Now moving on, I think it's a question that everyone wants to, the answer that everyone wants to hear. So is it safe to apply for the Golden Visa? One. And then the other question is, what do our viewers could do? What can our viewers do to facilitate, to speed up the application process from their side?
It's still safe to apply for the Golden Visa. The law is, we had the voting last week, the very first step of voting. It was approved on this first voting, which was expected as the government, as the party of the government has a large majority in the parliament. Now, this next stage, the discussion in the committees, the voting for specific legal provisions, this is exactly when amendments happen. So this is when we expect amendments to happen, not only because experts will be heard and committee legal opinions will be issued, and the compliance of every legal provision with the legal system and with the Constitution will be assessed. So we can expect some changes now. Only after this we'll have the final voting. After final voting, still has to go to the president. Everyone knows that by now. So for us to try to establish a timeline, we need to try to understand what will happen when. So first voting, it's done. Now we are going checking every legal provision in the Commission. This will take a while, and then we'll have the final voting. Final voting has to be scheduled. The schedulings of the government, of the Parliament, happen bi-monthly. There was today a new session, a new meeting to set the agenda. I think it is not released yet, the summary of that meeting, but on the last meeting they had 2 weeks ago, the agenda was full until June the 2nd. So probably today they set the agenda until mid-June, a bit more maybe. And I think that with the proposal as we have it in the current stage, it's not possible to set the agenda already for the final voting. This means that necessarily the final voting won't happen until the end of June, or last couple of weeks, second part of June maybe. We'll have to see in the next meeting. And this is only the voting. We still need the president, maybe the Constitutional Court. So I would say at least until the end of June, we have Golden Visa in force as we know it. Let's ignore the grace period issue. Do we have time to invest until the end of June? Yes. As Patricia said, right now, everyone became more efficient. Procedures are more streamlined. Every single procedure is now fast-tracked. So it's easier to invest right now. This is, to me, this is the major silver lining of the termination of the Golden Visa, is that everything became more streamlined. Everything became more streamlined. It's possible. We are seeing that every day. What's key to invest and to apply in due time is completing the investment. And everyone involved is trying to make it easier. Obviously, there are some things that our clients and investors can do to make this even faster. One simple example is traveling to Portugal. This avoids some bureaucracy, because we can do, there's some documents we can produce with the client here and avoid notarizations abroad, legalizations, apostilles. So traveling to Portugal helps to open a bank account, helps to draft and complete some documents necessary to grant powers to lawyers to act on their behalf. So this is one of the major commitments on the side of the investors. But obviously, everyone involved everyone on their end is trying to meet the investors halfway. So I think that with every new problem, there's lots of new solutions. We are watching new solutions arise every day. Escrow accounts being used on a regular basis, clients traveling, lawyers working more efficiently and faster than usual. So I think it's still possible. We are doing it right now. So it's just a matter of managing expectations and seeing what Portugal has to offer for every investor. I think you're on mute, G.
Sorry, I keep doing that. So that was a great answer. Thank you very much, Joanna. Very thorough as always. Patricia, do you want to add something to this? Are you noticing the clients actually doing that, coming to Portugal and applying for the process in person, and everything getting faster now?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the clients that can come, obviously they expedite things like Joanna listed, but we're also fully prepared and geared up to get things done fully remotely. It just means it ends up being a little bit more labor intensive on the client side, because like Joanna said, some of the documents require formalities in the name of apostilles or notarizations, and depending on the country, they can take a little bit of time. But for everything, there's a lot of things that we do in parallel. So they're happening all at the same time. You're doing the NIF and the bank account and vetting and selecting investments, and lawyers are working on and we're doing offers. So there's a lot of things that happen at the same time. And while all this work is kind of happening here on the ground, the client has time to source their personal documents and required power of attorneys with the proper comp and form required to do things.
Definitely. I think I've also got some other questions, but I think it's important we start addressing some of the questions here because they are relevant to the topic that you are exposing now. So one of them asks about the kinds of investments acceptable for the Golden Visa. And I think since we're talking about, how you can apply for apply and facilitate the process, so it would be good to clarify now what are the investments available. Who wants to talk about it? Perhaps Joanna or Patricia? Patricia?
Sorry, that was me muted now.
Oh, yeah.
So there are several paths of investment. The most popular ones are through definitely real estate, and another one investment funds. You could simply park vast amounts of money in a bank account here. There's a possibility of donating for some foundations and cultural funds to support the arts and in Portugal. Most of our clients, to be fair, and that's why we tend to talk about a lot of real estate and funds, that's what they kind of tend to do. A lot of our clients now look for turnkey solutions. So most actually have long-winded plans in relation to Portugal. So even to move here in a few years, or sometimes kind of short to mid-term plans, and then they want a property that would have a functionality that they could stay when they are over, but also to be renting it out when they're not. Whatever that be, these are the kind of the most popular ones. And then you have investment funds that have different mandates and criteria to deploy the capital from the investors, and they can tend from renewable energy they can vary from renewable energy up to schooling, healthcare, real estate, and a bit of everything.
Okay. And Joanna, sorry, again, one question here that just came after I'll start reading the questions there. I think it would be good to remind our viewers of the timeline, just like a brief timeline of the application process. So are you able to talk about that briefly?
Of course. Of course. So first, completing the investment, it's key. Let me start from the very beginning. Obtaining a taxpayer number is the most important thing you can do in Portugal, because this is the matrix in Portugal. You need to obtain a taxpayer number, complete an investment. Yes, this means investing the full threshold that you're applying for completely. So you either do a promissory agreement or a deed, or you invest in funds, or use any other paths, but you need to complete the minimum threshold eligible. And then you submit the application. Once you submit, then the waiting starts. Right now, we are waiting, our clients are waiting at least 12 months, but this is still due to the experience of 2021, the huge volume of applications before the amendments. I'm pretty sure the timeline will become better soon, because we had a period last year where they were not accepting applications, and CEF, I think, is working hard to clear the backlog. I've received pre-approvals on Saturdays, so on their end, I think they're trying really hard to clear the backlog. So, but let's assume worst case scenario, at least 12 months to obtain pre-approval. Pre-approval is an email from CEF saying your documents seem to be okay. We will invite you for biometrics. and then they do invite the clients for biometrics. Clients, once they are invited, they have an open window, let's say 3 to 4 months, the 3 to 4 months following, to book the biometrics to come to Portugal. They have to book immediately, but they can come in the 3 to 4 months after. Once they come for biometrics, which is very simple interview, it's not an immigration interview, just collect fingerprints, signature, and take pictures, and the lawyer will submit all the hard copies of the whole procedure. So after biometrics, you have to wait for final decision. Final decision means they will say, yes, we will grant you the golden visa, now you can pay the government fee, and they will issue the card. The whole thing takes right now about 18 months, sometimes less, sometimes more. I think it will become better, but we need to bear in mind that right now we are sending lots of applications every day. So I hope CEF is prepared. Otherwise, we will be creating a new backlog for the future.
Yeah, good call, Seth. See, hope they're watching here. Okay, fine. So we covered lots. And then I just want to ask one more question before I start addressing all the very interesting questions we have in our chat. But I think, it's safe to say the Golden Visa will end at some point. And we would like to know what other routes are available for relocation, migration, or investment in Portugal. If you're able to give us a quick overview on the visas, on the programs available, the alternative ones. Patricia, perhaps one or I don't know.
Yeah, sure. We can take this together. There are a number of visas available for people. I think the main takeaway, I can just kind of briefly list the different visas, which vary from work visas, digital nomads, passive income visas, which are very well known as retiree visas, entrepreneurs, whatever kind of business plan or plan you have in relation to Portugal, there will be a visa to accommodate and enable you to come in and live here. But this is kind of the live here is the kind of main operating word. So the main difference of this kind of list of visas that we can discuss in the Golden Visa is the actual physical residency requirements. So for people that are in a position to move to Portugal and commit to spending time here and genuinely, there's a lot of possibilities, and they can be also fairly flexible visas, but they do require kind of a change of lifestyle from the side of the applicant, which the flip side or the good side, what attracts a lot of people on the Golden Visa is exactly that the residency requirements is fairly low, but it gets you on a kind of path for the future. So if you're looking to move in, I don't know, 10 years time to Portugal, or if you want your kids to go to college in Europe or something like that, this is when but you're not in a position to kind of leave your jobs and uproot completely right now, the Golden Visa suits these types of family and this type of plans really, really well. But if, like I said, if you're in a position that you can move here, then there's definitely cheaper options, and I'm certain we can always, depending what it is that you do for a living, what kind of income that you have, there will always be something to accommodate and get your objective to come and live here.
Okay, good to know. And if you just want to add here that we have lots of articles about the alternative routes of migration, investment, relocation to Portugal. Our team will share some of the links here in the chat. And yes, I think we've got finally at the end of the first phase of our live, and now I will open the Q&A and ask you some questions here. There's some very interesting questions. Right, so and some we managed to answer before, so I will jump into: can a successful applicant during the current period subsequently get his spouse and children into the program after the new law is put into effect? I think Joanna answered that one. So let's jump that one. Difference in question to Max is that I'm already married with children, but that's fine. That was answered. Christian, yes, the live will be available later. Will the 7 days of residency apply for reunification visa holders? Yes. Okay.
It's specifically provided for in the proposal.
And is there still time to locate quality properties? Do you have to have a property picked at the time of application? Yes, for both?
Yes, you do. You need to, as I said, you need to complete the investment, the minimum threshold of investment before applying. That's the key requirement for the Golden Visa.
Yeah.
And then just to answer the first part of the question, yes, we are working with several projects, about 49 or just 50 projects. Some are already built, some are under construction, some are completely turnkey, different business models of investment, or even freehold properties that you can enjoy however way you want. But what we are doing, it's kind of pre-vetoing and making sure that the legal documents all check out, and that will allow for kind of a speedy or expedited completion of the investment. And that might be through a promissory contract, which is safely registered against the buyer's, the investor's name, or the actual public deed of the property.
Okay, I see. Right, so let's go to the next one. I live in the USA but want to retire to Portugal. What are my options to apply for the Golden Visa, or the alternatives?
Retiring is textbook D7. So anyone with passive income is able to relocate to Portugal. But as Patricia said, all the visas besides the Golden Visa target relocation. The Golden Visa allows you to relocate, but doesn't require you to necessarily relocate. So if you're willing to relocate, I'm pretty sure we have a visa available, because we have lots of options between retiring, entrepreneur, working. As Patricia said, we have everything, almost everything available.
Yeah. Okay, so that's answered. And so the kinds of investments acceptable for the Golden Visa, we talked about that. Recommended cash on hand at time of application?
I'm not sure that I follow exactly what the question is, but I'll try to do my best of deciphering that one. For the investment, whichever path you decide, it is at least the minimum amount you do have to pay cash, or will be free of any burden. So no mortgages, no financing in Portugal. So yes, if you decide to invest in something that's 280,000, you need to have this 280,000 cash, if you will. So liquid assets to be able to invest. If you're investing in something that it's, I don't know, for argument's sake, 750,000, the first, then again, assumptions here. You are going for an investment that qualifies for a minimum of 500,000. You would have a possibility of financing 250,000, but the minimum amount required to qualify for the visa has to be on a cash.
Okay. And I think maybe what he meant is to, how to have the funds available easily. And the easiest form would be cash. What's your opinion on this option? 500,000-fold incorporation or increase of the share capital of a company, creating or maintaining a minimum of 5 permanent jobs for a period of 3 years. And also, is the whole Golden Visa program being eliminated or just the real estate component?
It's all going to be eliminated. And about new options, I'm all for the rebranding and reframing of the Golden Visa. We sent several options. I do believe the Golden Visa is an amazing option, and it could be valuable to Portugal. Even for these housing measures, the government's trying to address. Golden Visa applicants would be perfect sponsors to these measures. But I'm not sure if this is the political will of the government. But on our side, for sure, rebranding, new options. I believe it has to change, obviously, but I'm all for new options on the Golden Visa.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So we've been talking for over 45 minutes. So let's go to our last question now, if that's okay. But then again, if you still have questions to ask and you didn't have time to put in the chat box, just get in touch with us, and a member of our team will be able to clarify any further questions. So, is it required land registry certificate on a promissory contract before GV program application?
The land registry certificate is a document requirement to submit a Golden Visa. Nowadays, hardly it is updated in due time, so it's common to send the land registry with the request for the update done, but pending the update. So sometimes it's necessary to provide a new version updated upon pre-approval, because some land registry offices are taking 2 months or more to update all the registries accordingly. So unfortunately, time is of the essence now. So it's not always that the land registry fully updated is available.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, fine. So it's time
but the registry has to be done. That's for sure. It has to be requested and done.
Okay. So the same person has also put another question here. Last one, right? Because we have to go. If you have a 280K project where the remodeling cost is 30K from the same total, should you have paid it to the builder, or can the money stand in your Portuguese bank account waiting on project development?
Not in your Portuguese bank account, in escrow account. Yes, it's possible.
Account,
if it's not fully done, it doesn't have to be sent. It has to stay in escrow account.
Okay. All right. Cool. I think that's it. So, Joanna and Patricia, thank you very much. We've reaching now nearly 50 minutes of this live, but it was a very good online event where we were able to talk about the Golden Visa, but as well as the routes of investment, what is available at the moment if you want to hurry and apply for your Golden Visa, but also about alternative migration options if it's not something for you to decide right now. And I think that's it. This live will be published in a few hours, and all the information will be there. And if you still want to book a one-to-one meeting, just click on the link that our production team has just shared with all of you. Thank you, Joanne and Patricia, and I'll see you all next time.
Thank you, Gizan.
Bye.